But Dave Link had been the dean of law at Notre Dame up until his 70th birthday or so. Then his wife Barbara died, and she had always joked with him that when she dies, he should go be a priest. So on her deathbed, one of her last words to him was, "Now go be a priest," as she was dying. So he did. He retired from Notre Dame. He put himself through seminary. A year and a half later, they made him a priest because he was so far advanced. I mean, this guy was, you met him, he was amazing.
And smart, very smart guy.
Yeah.
He was a mover and shaker in the Kennedy administration and Notre Dame. He was the dean of the School of Law. So he's a very, very good, hardcore, down-to-earth man that was brilliant.
He built law schools all over the world.
Australia
Owes him big time.
Yeah.
I mean, he civilized them legally.
Yeah.
Went in, and Ireland. He did a lot in Ireland.
Yes, he did. So Al Langskamp, he wanted you to begin to...
He needed me to help get the story to the bishop about things, because they didn't know. I'm the only one that really knows all the backstories on everything.
Right.
I haven't been through. I mean, there's some stuff that doesn't matter to me, but it never did and never will.
Right.
Because a lot of it was about money. And so that's where when people start talking about that, I lose interest in the conversations really quickly. You want to lose me in a conversation, start talking about things or money. You want to keep me, talk about ideas. I get excited about ideas.
So did you help put together a new regime or a sense of wanting to support?
Oh, I did that. I came and I physically moved back from Texas to come and do this. I said, if you're going to take the property back, I don't want anything to do with the Westricks.
Right.
After they hurt me, I said,
Right.
I don't want anything to do with them.
Right.
I said, I don't want to have anything to do with money.
Right.
I said, I'll come back as long as I don't have to worry about money.
If
you want me to work, I'll work.
Okay. All
But
right.
I don't want to have to deal with the money.
Yeah, really.
Because money just leads to trouble.
Yeah, and it's over. You already did the fact that you financed it over a 10-year period is nothing short of a miracle.
I lost $2.5 million.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine I wouldn't be eating so many cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Although cheeseburgers are good.
Yeah.
But no, I came back and we set about and then working with the commission to try to understand the dynamics of this. And even the commission, the theologians at Notre Dame, they couldn't wrap their head around
they're inadequate.
the whole thing with St. Joseph. And
no, they're inadequate. It's really in terms of when Trump says, you're incompetent. We got a lot of them that are very incompetent. A lot of misfits too. They won't put themselves on the line for anything. And it's always some ambiguous, I don't know, what'd they say to you in Notre Dame when you talked about St. Joseph, and what'd they say?
Well, the thing with St. Joseph, one of the big hiccups for a lot of the people on the commission was in the diaries that Millie described that Mary had said that Joseph is the co-redemptor. And that whole thing, because there's a lot of people in the church that don't like the idea of Mary being named as co-redemptrix.
Yeah.
They don't like that. They find that problematic. But that having been done, and her having been named as co-redemptrix, it's a very easy solution and reasoning to say that St. Joseph then is a co-redemptor because of what they said, well, there's nothing in the Bible about that. I said, is there anything in the Bible about Mary and Joseph being married? Were they married under God? Were they married, was there a holy bond there? I said, yes. I said, then you're not getting the whole point. You're not stretching the argument.
She was married to him.
Then she's married to him. He gains all the spiritual blessings she has and vice versa.
Yeah.
So if she's co-redemptrix, it would go without saying that he would be co-redemptor
Absolutely.
from the gifts of the holy matrimony
Right.
that occurred.
That's right.
I said, so what part of that don't you understand? And the head guy from Notre Dame says, well, we just don't know how to teach that. I said, And the bishop's sitting right next to me, and I'm looking at this guy. I said, "Well, don't let the facts get in the way of the discussion."
What'd the bishop say?
Nothing.
There you go. So that's why it's listen, it's a nice life. Join the priesthood. Lay back. Don't do anything. Don't rock the boat. All right. Don't declare yourself.
Well,
And
they
especially,
still,
say to the public, we don't know how to interpret co-redeemer, mediatrix of all graces, or Saint Joseph and his position in the church. It's so obvious and natural, yet they turn it into some kind of an intellectual void. And what do they do about it? Nothing.
they want to leave you sitting there, kind of twisting in the wind while they decide what they want to do. And it's frustrating. This is not normal activities for any discussion about these things we've been talking about. But my hope for here is that folks that are on the other side of this, this false chasm or divide that's been happening here it's really because of misinformation and lack of communication, and thinking that you know everything when you don't. Because if you wanted to know everything, you would have been at the trial. And for those who don't, and if you think that you got the information out of the other folks in the trial, you be very careful. And if you want to believe them, you should get a copy of the transcript of the trial and see what they said in the trial, because they're not telling you the truth. If you want to know the truth, I'll tell it to you. If you want a copy of the transcript, it's probably going to cost you between $50,000 and $80,000 because it was so
For the whole
long.
thing?
Yeah.
We'll send it. Does that include shipping?
I think it includes shipping.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think it includes the bow, but no, it's an awful lot of documents.
Yeah. Well, Larry is the only one because he has experienced it in many different aspects, in terms of the mystical experiences, in terms of trial and being sued, in terms of the cost, in terms of his financial cost, investment in this, his family's having to have to endure, and the things that happened that he lost within his family. So that's why I think at least the podcast is able to give you a direction and insights into the devotion or into Our Lady of America. We can guarantee you this: our Lord expects that Our Lady of America is going to do what she says she's going to do, in purity and with the children and re-evangelization of the world. So what do you think is going to happen? Any ideas in terms of how our Lord's going to unfold the success of this Our Lady of America mission?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of pain before there's a victory.
Okay.
Because people aren't ready to make the adjustment.
Okay.
I don't think they've got a willingness and the resolve. They're still too comfortable.
Okay.
And that's what I've been trying to say. Learn to live with less. Test yourself a little bit. See what you can reduce down to. Not to go into poverty,
Right.
but just to go into see, what kinds of things you can eliminate from your daily burdens. That it's going to give you more time and more happiness. I mean, I've been doing it.
Sure. Absolutely.
You want to see productivity rise? Get rid of the junk in your life.
Right.
Oh my gosh. These types of things. We've gotten so belabored by things that we're not paying attention to the things that we need to have in here.
Yeah, like divine indwelling.
Right. We need to be, but you got to slow down for that to happen.
Right.
You can't be going at such a frenetic pace and worried about this or worried about that, or bitching about these folks over there because they don't think like we do. I mean, you're no better than angry Muslims, bitching at each other.
Absolutely.
Because this is where it is. It's like there's no cohesiveness here. There's not anyone even really listening. They're still bringing up old BS from years ago that were dispelled in the trial. But the only reason they're still there is because the people that need to know weren't told because they weren't either at the trial or the people in the trial lied to them. Patty Fuller didn't even show up for the judgments. for the reading of the judgments. It took 4 hours, 232 counts
Wow.
to read through them all.
Oh my gosh.
We had to have a bathroom break
Wow.
for the verdicts. It just went on and on and on. And I had told Al at that, when he was going into shock, he says, "What's going to happen?" I knew at that point right then, this man's going to die on me.
Oh.
And so I just closed my eyes. I said, "Lord," I said, "you know, I never asked for anything for me." I said, "but this man's about to die on me."
That close.
I said, "Is there anything you can give me to give him to hang on to? Please, just help me out here." I said, "The man is dying." And it was bad. And so I'm sitting there, and I get one of my images, or my,
Locutions.
well, but this one came, it was just an image, and this is how Gabriel talks to me, kind of like in pictograms, is what I found out. And so what I'm shown is like a long hallway, closed doors, offices off the side. And down the hallway is just a cloud of dust coming at me, coming from down the hallway. And my view, my perspective goes from being the cloud coming at me, that I come around the backside, I can see what's happening behind the cloud, and it's a push broom, just on its own. No one holding it, but it's just like, something out of Fractured Fairy Tales. With
Like the broom that carries the water.
Rocky and Bull. Well, but this is a push broom, and so it's just scraping along, pushing all this dust up, coming down the hallway. And I look at that for a second, and I go, I start laughing. I mean, I'm laughing out loud, and everyone is basically, being quiet after communion.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, here's this Giacomo up three rows from the front of the communion rail laughing.
Chuckling loud.
What's he laughing about? And Al's like, what? And I go, it's going to be a clean sweep. And Al just looks at me like I have 3 eyes. Like, 232 counts. You're telling me it's going to be a clean sweep? I said, Al, it's going to be a clean sweep. Just relax. And I'm just going off of what I was told.
You bought him more peace than the $6 million.
Well, I don't know if he was comforted by that or he just thought I was like a total Looney Tune. But 2 days later, because Thursday, nothing happened because they were trying to give me $6 million. Trying to figure out. So Thursday is wasted. Friday, we all get a call. Our phones all go off at 11 a.m. to all be at the courthouse by noon. The jury's got their verdicts. So we're all there at noon, waiting for the jury to come in. And they give us all these sheets, like rundown sheets, so you can tabulate the results of all these verdicts. Normally, you've only got 1 page. Well, we had like 8 pages to go through. And they start reading through the counts, and everyone's going, marking it not guilty, all like this going down through. And what do you say on this count? Well, they got to read through them all. And so everyone's keeping score. And so everyone's being real diligent about it. And I, being with everyone else, I finally just look up. I lock eyes with juror number 8 down at the end. I just look at him. He goes, I go,
Wow.
all of them? And
Clean sweep.
he goes, I go,
Clean sweep.
and he goes, yeah. And so I look at all the other guys across the back. They're all like shaking their heads like, yeah, we got you.
So did Al finally come to the...
No, Al's still being studious going about it. And I look at all the ladies in the first row, because there are 4 ladies and 4 men. I look at all the ladies on the first row, and they're all like,
Wow.
we got you.
So when Al finally found out that it was a clean sweep, was he happy?
Well, let me get to that. So when I realized that the jury's all communicating with me that it's a clean sweep, I just went and I locked eyes with each of them. I said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, all the way down the line. And I sat back, put the pen down, put the papers away. I just sat back and just started writing it out. Now, it was boring as hell.
No.
And after about 10 minutes, Al looks up from his studious stuff because he's trying to, log everything, oh, no, we have to contest this, contest that. He looks at me, he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for it to be over. He says, don't you care? I said, Al, it's a clean sweep. He goes, I know you said that, but how do you know it? I said, because I've been talking with the jury. He goes, what? I said, I've been talking with the jury while you've been doing your notes here.
Oblivious to it, yeah.
I said, the jury's up there. And I said, I've been talking with them. Al's sitting right next to me, sharing my table. And he goes, well, how do you know? I said, look at them. And so Al looks at them all, and they're all like, at once, letting Al know. And Al goes, how do you know they're not lying? I'm like, what?
Al, get a life.
But no, he just couldn't believe it. No one could believe.
Wash some dishes or something at a restaurant, Al.
Well, that's not how his mind thinks. So, but anyway, I just let it go, and the jury was just loving it, because they were having this moment, and it was just amazing. So we went through all the rituals. It ended up being 232 to nothing. And, we walk out of there.
Playing.
But, it takes like an hour afterward to go through all the post-trial kind of stuff, meetings here, meetings there.
Torture.
Well, you don't get up and walk out, not till everything's all done. It took a lot of administrative crap. So we went through all that. And so the jury's hanging around, and I'm coming out. I got no one to hang out with, no one to celebrate with. So as I'm walking out.
Al would have taken you out for dinner with that kind of a clean sweep.
No,
Did you go to dinner?
No, I think we may have. I went. I don't know if we ordered something. I think we went to his place for a drink. Or we went to a bar for a drink or something like that. So there was that. But the jury was waiting for us outside, and the security team directed me out the right door to go meet with the jury. Then Al comes out a little bit afterward. And I'm out in a snowstorm with this jury, and they're saying, thank you. They're thanking me for not running and for telling the truth. It made their job easy. Al comes out, and the one jury floor lady goes up to him and says, "You're one lucky son of a bitch."
God bless her. Yeah.
Telling him, says that Larry was in the case.
You understand that, Al?
I don't know.
Probably not.
He probably thought that he deserved it. We worked hard for that win. Yeah, but you went after the wrong stuff. Nobody cared.
The juror told him, you're lucky this guy was involved. Yeah. Your ass would have been grand.
Well, they talked about money and things, and I was the only one that talked about the heart and the needs of the faithful.
Yeah.
I mean, for 3 months, they didn't talk about the needs of the pilgrims.
Right.
I was the only one you did, and Jan.
Well,
we were the only ones that brought that discussion to the table. And the jury understood that.
They liked it. Yeah, because it was real. It was natural.
It meant
real,
something to them.
And it was the truth.
Dollars and cents they didn't care about. And that's all they were doing is fighting about dollars and cents. So it was ridiculous. So, but to our friends over in Fostoria, look, it's going to be okay. If you got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. But you got to understand that there was a lot of people involved in this, had some personal issues, and had some problems with the truth. They had a poor relationship with it, and we understand. Okay, that there's no fight, there's no anger here, there's no nothing. Just learn what the truth is, and try to step forward with this and try to help present this better. But be careful who you champion as a hero in things, and try to understand that not everything is as you may think it is all the time. And we can get through this, and we can be better at what it is that we do and how we go about things. So try to be charitable with each other. Try to understand all's forgiven. I forgave everybody from the witness stand in the trial. And the jury couldn't understand why I was doing that. And I said, well, I got to do it for me. I said, I really don't care about these people, what happens to them afterward. Patty Fuller, all them. I said, I really don't care. We're not going to be friends. But we do have to plan for
Sure, you don't
our eternity.
you don't wish ill on them, and may God, provide for them as for anybody. But I want to thank you very much for bringing clarity to those events.
Well, I'm trying, you know, because it doesn't help anybody, and there's no sense going through this with an anger that's misplaced.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're correct. So,
Well, we need to be healthy, and we need to be charitable. We also need to have discipline. So I'm not getting totally soft on this, but, you know, if you're going to lie about me, lie about my family and all like that, you know, you better make it a better lie than what these were,
yeah,
because, you know, we'll find you out.
Yeah.
But it's not a scorekeeping thing. It's not anything about that. You know, life is short. Live it with purity. Like I said, we're not talking about your genitals. We're talking about how you go about your day and what your purposeful intent is all throughout the day. You know, are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for others? Are you doing it for because God expects that of you? That's what you want to do. Do it because God expects it. That's why He put you here. He put you here to be excellent. So try not to let Him down. You got anything more?
we'll be back with more things to talk about in the future. And good to be with you today.
Yeah, I hope this wasn't too long for everybody, but
No, it's gotta-
you
it
gotta
has to be
know
said.
the story. It's either you
That's
have to
right.
read the book,
No,
and this will also be in the book, and I'll have more details and fun stories that were in there in the book.
Excellent.
You know, some of the lighter moments of the trial, and I'll try to have that in there so people can at least have not such a one size or one view of things, because you really don't know what you don't know what happened here on this thing.
That's right.
Unless you were there. And Alex was there. Alex was there longer in one afternoon than anyone else was for the whole 3 months, except for the one woman who came to help sort out papers.
Right.
Other than that, there wasn't anybody that we saw from the Fostoria side, and Fuller and them didn't want people there because the hard truths were coming out, and it was probably going to take some of the lamination off of some of their lies.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Can't believe you went through what you went through.
I can't believe I'm still alive, honestly, because I was pretty committed to, ending. And
Yeah, no, it's
but I'm not. But even today, we talk about it. Don't be afraid of dying. Don't be afraid of living. For the most part.
Yeah.
So live until you die. Leave it all on the table. Don't keep anything on reserve. Die trying.
that's all.
Give it your best shot. You'll be happy you did. I got to tell you, you'll be so happy you did. It's not something you want to run towards, but it's something you want to have a better relationship with. So, because you know what? If you're talking about wanting to be with Jesus in this life, imagine what it's like in the next one.
Yeah.
We love you. We'll be back.
See you soon.